Welcome to the Empowered Business Podcast, where strategy meets action. I'm Monica Froese, and I'm here to help you create, sell, and scale digital products the smart way, using AI and proven strategies to build a sustainable, profitable business. If you're ready to turn your expertise into digital products that sell and eventually grow into a thriving digital shop, you're in the right place. Each week, I break down real-world tactics, unfiltered insights, and bold business moves. Because building a digital product business should be sustainable, scalable, and designed for long-term success. Let's ditch the fluff, leverage AI to work smarter, and turn your expertise into a thriving digital empire on your terms. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Empowered Business Podcast, episode 84, where I have one of my favorite people to learn from online on the podcast. I have Zach Spuckler. I had the privilege of meeting Zach last year at the Taylor Swift Eras Tour, and we hit it off, and he is my go-to person for Facebook ads, and I am diving back into Facebook and Instagram ads. I have mentioned before that basically my business income took a nosedive because I turned off all of my lead gen ads when I was going through a really rough period at the end of 2023 and for most of 2024. And now I am very heavily back into it. And I want to learn from no one other than Zach. He is the very best at this. And he's also hosting a live challenge to help you get your list building ads up starting on April 28th. And we're going to link to it in the show notes, but it's a $25 challenge. I am going to be in there with you. It's very action oriented and it's only $25. So if you go to monicafroese.com/Zach, which is our affiliate link for it, you can sign up and join me inside. Okay, so before we kick off, I just want to tell you a little bit about Zach. Zach Spuckler is the founder of Heart, Soul, and Hustle and the host of the Not Your Average online marketing podcast with over 500,000 downloads. As a marketing strategist and launch expert, he's helped tens of thousands of entrepreneurs scale their businesses with proven results-driven strategies. With a knack for crafting high-converting challenge launches, evergreen sales systems, and profitable paid ad strategies, Zach has generated millions in revenue for both himself and his clients. Through his consultancy, agency, and membership, Zach has worked with brands and entrepreneurs at all levels, whether they're launching for the first time or optimizing seven-figure launches and funnels. He's well known for his transparent marketing reports and updates and has a deep understanding of what truly moves the needle in digital marketing from his decade in online business. And truly, he is one of the most ethical people, too, that you can learn from out there. So let's dive into the episode and hear all about Facebook ads. Zach, welcome to the Empowered Business Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Zach and I got to meet in person last August at the Taylor Swift Eras Tour. He got to sit next to my daughter and her crazy dance moves and stuff. I'm so excited that we were able to connect on the podcast because we're going to be talking about a topic that I am very passionate about right now, which is Facebook ads. And you are my go-to now for this. So before we dive into that, I always like to ask everyone to tell us about themselves and their entrepreneur journey.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Like you said, my name is Zach. Our company is Heart, Soul, and Hustle, and we are a small education and consultancy company and agency for our Facebook and Instagram ad strategy. And so what that really means is we have three arms of the business. We have our agency, which is we take on about 10 to 15 clients where we manage ads for them. We have our education side, which is our membership, where we basically do it in bulk and mass. We help lots of people. We work with a small team that helps us manage the Facebook group and answer questions, copy, creative, ad strategy, all that good stuff. And then there's kind of like this middle ground, which is we do some consulting with clients. So that is the business at a high level. As far as how I got into it, it's really funny. I started back in 2014 with a vegan food blog. And I was like, this is so fun. I'm not vegan anymore. Please don't be mad at me if you are. But I started a vegan food blog, and what ended up happening was in about 6 months, we went from 0 to 250,000 views a month on the blog. And what I realized after about 6 months, I was working with a blog coach and I was starting to do webinars and even a little bit of Facebook ads for that business. And I was like, I'm way more into the marketing than I'm into the vegan food. I still love vegan food. Like I'm always down for an Impossible Burger, but I was like, I'm really loving the numbers and the metrics and the tracking and the marketing. And so I kind of started to dabble at that time. Periscope was really big.
Periscope.
The OG Facebook Live, which like, that's not even really a thing anymore. So it's like, it's evolving so fast. But basically, you would go live on your phone. It was a Twitter. It wasn't even Twitter based at that time, but it became a Twitter based app. And you would just like live stream to people. We grew that to about 20,000 followers. And people were like, what do you do? And I was like, we have a vegan food blog, but really, I'm loving running Facebook ads. We ended up getting a few clients from that. And then people were like, how are you getting these clients from Periscope? So we made like a little Periscope course. We took that to 6 figures. And then I was like, okay, great. I have like proof of concept that you can advertise and market these courses. We did our Facebook ads course. We took that to a multiple 6-figure mark. What I really love doing for us, it is like foundationally Facebook and Instagram ads. I am ironically not a big social media person. I don't love social media in terms of like feeling beholden to having to post content. When we're in a launch or a promotion, I like suck it up and do it. But to be honest, I'm not on social media that much. Other than I am in the Taylor Swift Vault Facebook group. I don't know if you're in it. It's so good. There's like 500,000 members and they just talk about all the theories and the speculations. And I'm always watching for it's a really good.
Now I'm going to be.
So all of that to say where I ended up now is we just leverage Facebook and Instagram ads because I am a wildly inconsistent person. I want to release a weekly podcast. I want to be on YouTube every week and I want to post on social media. But the reality is I just don't do it. But Facebook and Instagram ads are always running for me. So what I will say is over the past, I would say about 18 months, like we've really dialed in, there have been less than 1 in 50 days where we don't actively have a Facebook ad running. And those days would be like transition days, moving from launch to evergreen or evergreen back to launch. So that's how we landed here.
All right. So I find it so fascinating how similar so many of our stories are when we've been on the internet for over a decade. The amount of people that, because my blog started, we all start with the blog. Mine's the Redefining blog. And mine was in 2013. And one of the things I find so funny, and I'm so glad you touched on it, was so many people, because of the way the world is today with social media and the rise of influencers and TikTok and all that, people assume that I am like a slave to social media. I'm like, I grew a multi-million-dollar business without doing a single dancing reel. I can't stand social media. I even got to the point where I felt like it hijacked my entire personal, like my Facebook and my Insta. I went back to regularly posting on my private Instagram and using that because I just wanted to be like an individual in the world that wasn't constantly having to be this face of a brand.
Yes, 100%. And I think a lot of us started with blogs. Like you said, we've been online for more than a decade because when we started, there wasn't live video. This is really dating you, but if you're a nerd, you'll appreciate this. There wasn't even an ads manager. There was like, you either ran a Facebook ad or you were in what was called the power editor. Like, I don't even know the last time I've heard that. But like you said, like they grow and evolve. You didn't have to be on social media to get really great traffic and we got spoiled. And so now we're like, well, I'm not doing that. We did a reel 4 years ago. It was literally this 7-second reel back when voiceover reels were a big thing. Like you would lip sync, whatever you want to call it. Those don't even, like people don't even really do that anymore. But I just did this Beyonce soundbite that was like 5 seconds long, 1.2 million views. And what happened? We got 2,000 followers, no sales from it. And then it messed up my algorithm for like 3 weeks. So yeah, there's just all of that to say, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't want to be beholden to social media to grow my business.
When TikTok did shut down for the day that it shut down, I felt so bad because I take TikTok and I tell people all the time, listen, do I think I could make a lot of money on TikTok because I know how to get people off platform and to buy from me? Absolutely. Yeah. But it's like my piece of the internet for me to just consume and in my happy place when my kids are sleeping.
Yes, TikTok is for me to consume, not produce.
But I can tell you the amount of times that I see these influencers, I'm like, oh my gosh, I could teach you to make so much more money than you're making. The amount of times I'm trying to go deeper with an influencer and I want to work with them and they hook me and then there's nothing. And I'm like, it kills me. So the interesting thing here is we basically had very similar trajectories. You went Facebook, Instagram ads. I went heavily into teaching Pinterest advertising, did that for 4 years. The concepts are very similar. I always tell people who started with Facebook ads and tried to come to Pinterest ads struggled so.
Ball game.
But when you went from Pinterest to Facebook, it was a lot easier for people.
Way easier.
It was always a very fascinating thing for me to watch. That being said, I always, while I taught Pinterest advertising, knew it like the back of my hand, I always had Facebook and Instagram ads running. The biggest mistake I made, I published a podcast. We brought this back a couple weeks ago and we've been regular, knock on wood. I did like my 12 lessons of online, like 12 lessons in 12 years of online business.
I love that.
And one of them was when my divorce started in 2023, and we were having a record year that year. So of course, everything's going to come crashing down in your personal life when that's happening. And one of the things I said was, in hindsight, looking at numbers and realizing what happened was, I didn't even realize at the time, because it was just, there was so much in my brain. I turned off my ads, and that I'd never been, I always had paid ads in my business running to some degree. Of course, it ebbed and flowed with how much money I was spending. But mid 2023, I turned them off. And it became very apparent to me by mid 2024 that we had a lead gen problem.
Yep.
And it's so funny because it's not like I'm not aware, but when you're going through a lot in your life, I guess I just missed it. And when I was looking at the data and my numbers and where I was spending money, I realized, wow, turning off those ads for that year, I'm still recovering from it.
Yes.
And
that is so interesting that you bring that up, because we literally wrote a blog this morning that is like, we call it like the strategic art of losing money. And it's like such an interesting concept that you're bringing up, which is a lot of times when we work with creators, what they realize, or don't realize, I should say, is like their audience is growing all the time, a lot of times because of Facebook. And so when they're seeing like ebbs and flows, or a life change happens, or they pivot products, the instinct is like, I should restrict or constrict my expenses, or like, I should just turn off ads and I can come back to them. But we kind of say it's like this invisible effect, because what most people don't realize is, especially like in 2025 and beyond, you used to be able to go dollar in for dollar out strategy. That's what we called it, right? So it's like you put $1 in, you get $2 out. You'd run them through your webinar funnel or your challenge funnel or your launch funnel. It's like, that doesn't really work the same way it did in 2015 and even 2020 to 2022. We call it the pandemic gold rush. It's like everyone came online, so there was this new influx of fresh engagement. But what a lot of people don't realize is if you look at your ads day to day, you may be like, they're not doing much, but there's really 3 layers to your ads. There's the immediate return, which is like what we traditionally want out of ads. There's the short-term return, which we look at on a quarterly basis. And then there's the long-term effect, which is kind of what you're saying, is like, you don't realize that there's this compounding effect of, if you're spending $5, $10, $20 a day, you are reaching new people. You can't lose money on advertising because you're not paying for leads, sales, or clicks. You're paying for an impression. And so we know, like, the money's in your list. You need to be visible. So if your list is growing and you're paying for visibility, you are unequivocally growing your business. Maybe not dollar in, dollar out, Monday to Friday, but your business is always growing as a byproduct. We did something similar to you over the last 18 months. We've been so just like, we always want ads on. Even if I need to lower the spend, the rule of thumb is like, I may look at cash flow or liabilities and I may lower spend, but I will never turn off ads, because I can look at my P&L. I can look at my report in QuickBooks and literally go, the months I spent more on money, I see a direct correlation to an increase in revenue within a 60 to 90 day window.
So 2024 was like a cliff dive. We went up as high, our highest revenue year. And then 2024, by mid 2024, it was like every month just kept going down. I was like, panic button. And so, but like all over my office, I usually wear this shirt, I don't do failure. And actually my ex-husband was the one that kept telling me, he's like, because I was like kind of panicking, and he was like, you don't do failure. And I'm like, I'm not going to accept this. Pretty much almost on the dot, January 1st of this year, I flipped my mentality and I said, okay, the last 2 years didn't exist. I'm just over it. I don't even want to talk about it. Like, it's bad juju. It's staying over there. And this is going to be our year. We're going to turn it around. We're going to do just everything different. And the first thing I did was I decided to embrace AI, because I felt like I was getting left behind and I don't want to be left behind. And then 2 was, we have to get our lead gen strategy back on the rails. And I listened to a podcast that you put out, and this is what prompted me to ask you to come on to talk about it. Because you run a live challenge essentially quarterly, right? Yep. And I was in your one that you did January. I heard this podcast episode you put out a couple weeks ago where you laid out your strategy. And I was like, this is stuff that is very intuitive to me as well. But yet I was not doing all the things that you were saying that we should do. And I've quickly adjusted. Can you tell us what this overarching strategy is?
Yes, I was pulling it up because I'm going to cheat sheet it, but I know what you're talking about. So the way that we look at Facebook ads is, this is like a perfect jumping off point, because like I said, we don't look at ads on a week, even a week to week basis. We will look month to month, but really I'm looking at quarterly ROI. So my framework is essentially really 3 to 4 pieces, depending on how you look at it. I think we said 4 in the podcast, but essentially we have our list building ads that are always running. And this is the foundation. And I tell everyone, like, whether you have robust funnels or great retargeting or all the stuff that, like, if you are not growing the list, you are not growing the business. If you are not reaching new people, you are not growing your business, right? So if you're not growing an audience you can make an offer to, you are leaving money on the table, like no bones about it. So our core foundation, the ads that we are always running, are list building ads to grow the list. Now, the second piece of that, like I think on the podcast, we called it part 2 of 4, but like technically 1B, if you will, is we have a tripwire and a sequence that goes out to new subscribers. So as soon as you join our email list, we make you a low ticket offer. Ours is like $25 with a $40 average order value. And then if you don't buy it, you go through a sequence to buy it. If you do buy it, you go through a sequence to join our backend product, which is a membership. We charge $67 a month. Once all of that is running, the second piece is an engagement strategy. We drop the ball on this one a lot, to be honest, but it is like the most powerful one. And I'm always like, got to put this back in play. And we typically have it running, I would say 50% of the time. But essentially, whether you do, this is why I don't have it running, is we typically use Instagram content, Facebook content, and then a blog or a podcast. But we will take core content. And just to really clarify, core content is anything that speaks to your core messaging, your core products. It could be blog, podcast, video, reel, Facebook post, doesn't really matter, but we run it to all of the people who are joining your list. What we're essentially doing is creating multi-channel omnipresence. Essentially what it means is you're now showing up in their inbox, their Facebook, their Instagram. And with some of the Facebook and Instagram ads, you can even be showing up in, like, somebody who messaged me the other day and was like, you're showing up in my mobile game. Like, how are you doing that? And it is through Facebook and Instagram ads. So that's really cool. And then the fourth piece is retargeting and launches. So essentially, even though, like, and again, if you listen to the podcast, I'm going from memory, I may have positioned it a little bit different, but the fourth piece is essentially our launches and our retargeting. So you're doing this all the time, and it's kind of like a stacking strategy, if you will. So you're always growing the list. You're always generating some new customers, probably at a slight loss, which is okay, because you are then engaging them with content to warm them up. So when, in our case, you do a quarterly challenge, the lead cost is phenomenal. The engagement rate is phenomenal. The conversion rate is phenomenal, because what people have been doing historically, which doesn't always work, learn from history, is they run ads to cold traffic with 80% of their budget to a launch. And now the market is more sophisticated. They don't trust as easily. What we've done is flip that. We spend about 50 to 60% of our budget marketing all of that lead and engagement we've generated over the last 60 to 90 days, bringing them into a launch. And then we retarget everyone in that launch to buy our product. That's your standard launch strategy. There's kind of like a ancillary piece to that, which is you can also leverage that with an evergreen strategy. And we've tested that and had really great results with it. My argument, and this is like, we don't run our evergreen funnels year round. We run our evergreen funnels at strategic times where they plug into specific content and promotion strategies where we get 3, 4, 5x ROI on our funnel for a 4 to 6 week period, which, like, my argument is I'd rather get a 4 to 6x ROI in a short period of time than try to get that like 1.5 to 2x ROI that people are fighting for over a quarter. Does it probably shake out the same? Sure, but it doesn't require attention, focus, time, team, optimization, copy, creative. Over a quarter, it requires it for a 4-week period. We generate a similar amount of cash, and then you repeat it. Every quarter, you just repeat the process. Grow the list, engage the list, make an offer, evergreen in there if you want to, repeat, and it stacks. So it's like a staircase, because you're going to make more money every launch, or you make money every launch, you put that into the ad spend, then your lead gen goes up a little, and then your launch goes up a little. And so each time it just gets a little bit bigger. And bonus, I'll throw this out there, then I'll stop talking. Bonus is, especially in the B2B space, it can still work for B2C, but especially in the B2B space, what we have found is our affiliate engagement goes up every quarter. So like, you reached out and we're like, oh, we'd love to have you on the podcast because we're putting out podcast content. Now, we're really proactive with affiliate, but we have like 35 active affiliates for our upcoming promo. who have like reached out, filled out a form, said, I want to promote, I want to send an email, I want to tell people about your launch, because every time you do this, if your launch is good, if your content is good, people then want to share it. So because they are getting emails from you, engagement from you, they're always thinking about you, they get results with you, then they want to share with you. And so there's also this organic spillover, both organic and affiliate, that is also growing in the background. So it's just this massive back-end compounding effect.
And this is exactly why I struggled so hard in 2024, because what ended up happening then, now I recognize I have a lead gen problem. Also going into so I was like, I kind of felt like the cards were stacked against me, but I was still, we're going to do optimism. And what I have seen, so you figure we are 4.5 months into me, like real plugged back in, trying, spending the money, using the data. And it's so interesting because we always run a launch the last week in January. But my ramp up time, I couldn't have all that engaged ads running, so we went hard at the opt-in ads to get right into the challenge. And I know historically the amount of people that have anecdotally just told me, I watched your training 6 times before I bought. Like that is overwhelming. And so I understand that compound effect. So that launch was like, womp. And of course, now it's like, that's a hard one when you're trying to dig yourself out. And I was like the show up rates were nothing like we were used to. So then I was like, okay, we're not going to do a whole entire launch event because we can't use that much bandwidth if we're not going to have the proper ROI at the back. So I really started going, we got new funnels up that we were running, just the regular lead gen to the tripwire to the nurture sequence. And then after I listened to your podcast, I was like, well, I'm recording these podcast episodes now. So let's get the audiograms out and start doing that. So we host it. So we want to get the program on Evergreen and then do another live event. But we're in the last, I'm still doing the curriculum. It's like pulling teeth right now. It's like done.
I feel that.
Put it on Evergreen till all the curriculum's done. But what I said was, okay, we're running 3 webinars. Like one was 3 weeks apart and the next are going to be 2 weeks apart. To all these hot people, I participated in some really strategic summits. So they're new on the list and all these leads coming in from Facebook. Well, our show up rate in the last 2 live 90-minute webinars, right? I show up to present for 90 minutes, are the highest show up rates we've had in 2 years. There's no doubt this is because we're implementing what you told me to do in that podcast episode. I was to the point where I'm like, I don't want to run another week-long event because of the bandwidth unless I know we can get people to show up. And I'm cautiously optimistic that come end of May, beginning of June, we could probably have a pretty knock it out of the park proven launch.
Love that.
To do this. So thank you. Honestly, you really kicked my butt. And really, I understood the compound effect, but listening to you talk about it with numbers was very helpful to me. So I have questions about the actual running of ads now.
Yes. Stacks. If you do nothing else, grow your email list with ads, because you can always email that list on a weekly basis. You can always retarget that down the road. I talk to so many people who buy the 5K, 10K, 15K programs, nothing wrong with them, but it's like, build out your perfect ecosystem, upsell, evergreen, low ticket, high ticket, whatever. They're all, pick your flavor of the month. The problem is what happens is somebody builds this system start to finish. They build the freebie and the upsell and the tripwire and the low ticket offer and the call booking funnel and all of this stuff. And what ends up happening is you turn it on and it's broken, which is normal, by the way. You'll have that funnel building ads. If you're listening to this being like, this is like a 6 to 12 month plus goal, depending on your experience level, it's okay to just start running ads to grow your list, because you even mentioned it's like when you turn them off, you see a decrease. When you turn them on, you will inevitably 60, 90, 120 days out see an increase. So don't feel like you need to execute all of it at once. If you just start growing your list with ads, you will be literally in the top 20 to 30% of marketers, I believe.
Yep. I've seen this because we essentially turned on our list building ad to a funnel that inevitably we want to lead to the course that we're still developing. I can't have it on Evergreen yet, but the challenge we ran in January was really great. It was the best content's come out of my brain in a long time, to be honest with you. So we packaged that. That's the tripwire. And then they get reoffered that in the sequence. Done yet. What we're doing is we're getting those people into the live webinars. So and that's where the show up rate's coming. If I was not running those list building ads for the last 4.5 months, we would not be having these show up rates like we have. And some of our highest live conversions. Because one of the things that kicked my butt really bad was I've always been able to sell live. I'm great on webinars, because I just give it to you real. I go off script. I do rants in the middle of my webinars. We have kids sometimes bombing us or, I'm just real and people like that about me. But there were getting people to buy live when I was not running these constant ads was really hard. And I started having confidence issues oh my goodness, do I not know how to sell anymore? Because I need to be able to sell. That's why we're in business. It was scary. It was did I just lose it? It's just gone? But no, it was a lead gen problem.
Yep.
So yeah, everyone, can we talk actually about how much money to spend? Because I know having taught Pinterest advertising for so long, that is the biggest thing that people are this quality matters too. So I could have 50,000 people on my list, but a lot of them might not be buyers. A lot of bloggers did that. So right now, I just looked before I got on the call. I have the two sides of the business. I'm reviving Redefining Moms. So that's the B2C side. And it has a shop. And then I have the B2B side where we talk about digital products and digital shops, now integrating AI, and we have the Empowered shop. So I'm running a $30 a day opt-in ad that's meant to be the lead gen, and the tripwire it's not breaking even on ROAS. And honestly, remember the lovely days of $1 in, $2 out. And yes, would I like it to be breaking even? Absolutely. There's more optimization we can do there, but it is what it is. Then I'm spending about $15 a day on the engagement, different audiograms. I was running some of the audiograms cold. Now I'm using our retargeting audiences when we run the live webinars. And I found something very interesting. And I think this is why my lead costs went down. I was using just Advantage Plus, cold audience for US. And I wasn't making any changes. But I found this feature where you can now tell it, well, here are my warm audiences. And my lead cost compared to the last webinar was cut in half. And I'm that's got to be why.
They change things constantly. That's why we're always updating stuff.
This is why I stopped teaching Pinterest, because I was so sick of being at their mercy of changing everything. Yeah. I was I can't take this anymore, because they went public. And then it was just every day I logged in and it looked different. I'm I can't do this. So I range anywhere from $30 a day to $100 a day. And that's where I've been sitting. Where do you advise people to be sitting?
I know it's audio, but I was moving my laptop screen around because I'm pulling up my ads manager. I don't want the computer to shake. Just to give you context, I like to give this context because I think I'll preface this by saying this is not the expectation. This is not the rule. This is just what we're doing. In Q1 of 2025, which included a launch, full disclosure, we spent $43,000 on it. Okay. Now, our revenue for that quarter was around $220 revenue. So I'm a huge advocate of throw 15 to 20% in ads. It is a little aggressive, admittedly. We have some really intensive growth goals for the next 2 years. So we're putting more into expenses. I share that with you, full disclaimer, not to be I need to spend $40,000 on it. No, you don't need to spend $40,000 on advertising. I would not ask people to jump out the gate from that. If I were to look at, say, Q1 of 2023, just to see what it was, we spent $16,000 in quarter one of 2023. So we've almost tripled, 2.5-ish X'd our ad spend per quarter over 2 years. So that's the long answer is 15 to 20%. Let it grow with time as your revenue goes up. Here's the short answer. $10 to $20 a day is a really good place to be. $300 to $500 a month is a great starting point. And I know people are going to tell me well, once I'm making X, then I'll do it. And that's fine. Here's what I will offer is the byproduct of running the ads is an increase in revenue. That does require some faith. And I always love to tell a little anecdote. When I first started my business back in 2015, I was working in a master's program. I was a graduate assistant. I was on my own living in a really bad apartment. Somebody had tried to break in at one point. That's the type of area we were in, full on shouldered 2-door trying to break down the door. Okay, not the best area. And so I get it. Here's what I did anyway. I spent 1.5 to 2 years doing little side hustles or freelance writing or whatever I could do to get a few $1,000s in a pot that I was going to invest in my business. I am a believer that it costs money not to make money, but to get the tools, resources, and access to the things you need to make money. So $300 to $500 a month, I would say if you're not willing to commit 3 to 6 months to an experiment at $300 a month on the low end, you're already doing the math. You're going $1,800 on advertising. Yes, but over 6 months. So if you're making $10K a year, that's that 15 to 20% we're talking about. It puts you right in that range. You're making 5 figures a year, put 10 to 15% back in advertising. Baseline, $300 to $500 a month, $300 to $500 a month. Then the middle of the road answer is 10 to 15% of your ad spend, but figure out the value of a lead to your business. So like $50,000 a quarter is how many leads do you need to get things done? Because I see so many people go, I want to have a 10K launch. And I'm like, great. What does that look like? And they're like, it looks like selling 20 courses. Great. And what do you convert at? I don't know. Well, how many people were in your last webinar? I don't know. Well, what's your show up rate? I don't know. No judgment. We all do it. We are taught by the online marketing space, by personal development spaces to be goal oriented and go, I'm going to get there. Right. And then reverse engineer it. We think I'm going to sell 20, but there are a million steps in between that. And so what I would offer is if you're like, look, I can put more than $300 a month into it. Great. But I'm totally not at 50K a month. Look at your last 2 to 3 promotions, figure out your conversion rate, figure out how much a lead is worth to you in that promotion, and start pacing for that baseline going forward. So if you say I spent $1,000 in my last 3 promotions and I made $2,000, I would say, great, you're doubling your money. Let's bump it up to $1,500 for the next promotion. Analyze the stats, take a look at it and scale up. Short answer, 300, medium answer, calculate your numbers for your business. Long answer, 15, 20%, scale. And we're now at about 50,000 a quarter.
Okay, so this is so fascinating because I have always historically been very involved in my numbers and I'm getting back into it now. We averaged, like I started tracking them pretty solidly in 2018 because that's when like my Pinterest course took off and it was like, oh, well, like I should know where my money's going. And historically, we've spent about 8% on paid advertising, which is low. And I know like my bookkeeper, I use a bookkeeper that works with lots of similar businesses of mine. And he's always like, you know, your ad spend's low. And it always has been. And that is something I need to work on. So I just looked at how much I've spent on the B2B side in Ads Manager since January 1st. I spent $6,303. But considering that I had my ads completely turned off, it's showing overall that the return on initial ad spend, at least according to Facebook, is 1.18. But I know because I track with unique coupon codes and stuff, and I isolate the funnels, that's not taking into account the down funnel. Facebook can't. I mean, if it's 30 days down, it's not taking that into account. These people have gone on to buy the challenge. That's the tripwire. They've gone on to buy the course itself through the live webinar. So I know the ROI is higher than that, which brings me to a really good question. Do you use any of these fancy tools like Hydros? No?
We've tried a couple. The one that I'm currently testing is ClickMagick. What I've come to realize is they're expensive and they're not really created for online course creator business. For us, we're tracking with pretty decent accuracy. We do everything very manually by spreadsheet. We do some UTM tracking. If you're like, what the heck is that? Don't worry, it's not that important. If you don't know what it is, you probably don't need it yet in terms of advertising. But we don't use a lot of the fancy tools. I actually just canceled one of them the other day because I was like, they're so limited and mostly speculation. But I think around 2026, 2027, a lot of the system and process that they rely on is going to start getting outdated. And doesn't mean that they won't innovate, but like even Google has come out and said, like, we're getting rid of some of our tracking issues. Like privacy is important to us. So like they're stripping some of the trackability from features that a lot of these companies do rely on. And so I'm always hesitant to get super involved. What I'm looking at is on the whole, right? It's like, I know that there's an invisible effect to everything that I'm doing, right? So like, for example, I think we ran that post that I wrote about our strategy. We ran it as an engagement, right? So let's just assume for the sake of argument that you clicked on that engagement and listened to it. Well, now we're here, we're having this, you'll probably share our bootcamp and then I'm going to get sales from that. I will never track that no matter what I do with Kairos, ClickMagick, Triple Whale. Like, I'm never going to be able to track the ROI on that. So to me, it's like, I'm saying, is revenue staying in a growth period? I should have referenced that. Admittedly, that 18 to 20% is our growth period. If I'm just in like a stable average every day, I'd probably want to be closer to 10 to 15% of my revenue on ad spend, I'm never going to be able to fully measure that. If I am spending this money and I start going, oh, wow, advertising was 25% of cost this month, and it wasn't a launch month, or we didn't have a big growth activity, that's when I'm starting to look, okay, let's take a step back. What are these decisions telling us? And even then, I'm looking at that on the quarter. So on this quarter, we'll be right around 18% if we hit our numbers. And I'm like, perfect, because we're doing a really big promotional launch. So I love the tools. I think they're great in theory. I work with clients who use them. They're very hard to understand. They're very hard to use. And ultimately, you're paying more in time, effort, team, and process than you get out of for 95% of people.
I am so glad that you said that, because I don't use those tools. I also manually track. Like I said, I isolate all the funnels for Facebook. So they have their own pages. They have their own way that they get onto my list. I use unique coupon codes for the tripwires. So I just pull it into my funnel. I have a funnel tracking spreadsheet, and I pull the data in manually, and it does all the calculations for me. If I was a betting person, my return on this $6,300 is probably in the neighborhood of 30 to 40,000. And that's so important for people to understand. And I felt like that was a big struggle for me with teaching ads, that for people to understand that compound effect that we keep going back to.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's oftentimes because people don't, well, for one, you made mention that they build the whole funnel first before they'll turn anything on. I'm just like you. We turn it on before that. But then they don't know how to mirror up the data down funnel. Like they just kind of glaze over and don't do it. And so then they think their ads aren't as effective as they are. We just got an email. My team put this email in our Slack channel this morning, the girl who does our inboxes. And she's like, oh, you have a new customer that found you on the podcast relaunch. She's gone to buy so much stuff out of our shop. She enrolled. She's in our membership now, and she's talking about enrolling into the new program. And the reason Natalie sent it to me is because she knows I knew that I wasn't putting out content anywhere, like fresh content. And that's how people historically, that's why they like me. That's why they buy from me. And so to know that the podcast is working again, and then compounding the fact with Facebook ads, getting it out there, I have no doubt that this is going to be, by the end of this year, we will have recovered. It makes me very happy.
Yes.
Considering that I do have to pay my mortgage and stuff.
Me too.
So can we just talk about some of the mechanics about the ads real quick? Especially, I really want to talk about the audiences, because I have been defaulting to what they're calling the Advantage Plus, and it's like US. And what I had noticed, and I was letting it run. So, I teach men. I have some great men in my membership, but the reality is my brand really attracts more women. And on the Redefining Mom side, I was using the audience, the cold audience, and it was Facebook.
Still grabbing men.
It was, but it was mainly women. But on the B2B side, they were grabbing more men. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to resonate as much with men as I do women, because it's just the nature of my brand. And so then it made me think, what do I do differently, Zach? What am I supposed to do differently?
Great question. So Advantage Plus Audience, I have this love-hate relationship with. And just for context, Advantage Plus Audience in its simplest form is technically a form of AI. It's really more machine learning. If you want to nerd out on that, go for it. I don't even know that I fully understand it, but I always like to make that little delineation, because I think, especially in 2025, there's this like, AI is like smart and it learns and it does all these things. Machine learning is more about statistical analysis and forecasting. Again, does it really matter? No, but just know that it's a slightly different process. I know that, but I'm saying like what we look at when we look at AI is like, I go to ChatGPT, I go to Claude, I put something in, I get something out. Just understand the mentality with machine learning is a little bit different. What Advantage Plus is saying is it's statistical modeling. So Advantage Plus is basically saying like, hey, based on the history of your account, things that we believe will happen and our predictions about what will happen based on data, this is a decision we're going to make about who to target in your ad account. Now, if your eyes have glazed over, don't worry. The short version of this is everything you give to Facebook under Advantage Plus is a suggestion, because they're basing it on data, not input. For example, if I do Advantage Plus and people who like Amy Porterfield, it's still going to target people outside of Amy's audience. It's using that input as a suggestion overlaid on your data. So why is that important? Because for someone like you, Monica, who's running $6,300 and has all of your pixels installed and has all of this data running through your ads account, it can be a really lucrative tool. for people who are spending less than 3 to 5, maybe even 1,000 on the low end a month, you're not giving Facebook enough data for the machine learning to work. Because again, it's not AI, right? So if it can't learn, it can't make great decisions. So we do tend to see these things happen where, for example, we work with a lot of people who are like, oh, Facebook says just use Advantage Plus audience because it's going to be stronger and better and faster. And they run it in a new ad account and they go, my target audience, I work with moms. It will target men because it's basing it on the holistic data that 50% of ad engagers are men. Maybe it's more female, maybe it's more male. I don't know. We're just going to assume if 50% of men are clicking on ads and it has no data in your account to base it on, even if you say target women and you turn on Advantage Plus, it will target men because it's machine learning. If you're using your ad account consistently, regularly, and you have good data in there, absolutely test Advantage Plus audiences. If you have no data or you're spending less than $300 to $500 a month, I'd shy away from them for right now. And this is like April 2025 that we're recording this. Could be totally different in 2 months. That's the other pro con of Facebook is it evolves so fast sometimes. It could be a great tool that relies on AI and inputs in a couple months. So that's the first thing. Second thing is I split test everything. So I'm going to split test even if I have good data, Advantage Plus and non-Advantage Plus. So when I typically set up an ad, let's say for a launch, I'm going to target my warm audiences. I'm going to target people who like interest-based audiences. So like people who like Amy Porterfield, people who shop at Whole Foods, people who follow Elizabeth Gilbert. And then I'm also going to test custom audiences, which would be like my email list, people following me on Instagram and Facebook. There's also what are called lookalike audiences, which is kind of using that machine learning theory based on input. So I can say, find people who are most similar to my email list living in the US. And lookalike audiences operate on a percent scale, 1 to 10%. People are always really confused by that. It's what percent of the population you're targeting. So if you say, I'm going to do a 1% lookalike of the United States, it's 1% of all Facebook users in the United States who are most similar to the input that you give it. So those are like the audiences you test: warm, lookalike, cold, and cold with Advantage Plus. And we're always split testing them. The other thing to keep in mind is so many people that I talk to go, well, I tried ads and they didn't work because I'm a course creator. I targeted Amy Porterfield. I spent $20. It didn't work. I didn't get any leads. I didn't get any clicks. This is why split testing is so essential. We split test all of those audiences, but we're also split testing 2 creatives, 2 sets of copy, and 10 different audiences. Because if you go, ads don't work, and I say, well, how much did you spend? And you say $20, you really need to spend about $100 to $150 just on testing to get the data to know where to spend your money going forward. And so the reason you do that is because maybe Amy Porterfield's audience doesn't resonate with your brand colors, vibe, copy, creative, but maybe Brendan Burchard's does, right? But if you only said, here's my copy to Amy, you minimized your testing basically. And so to your point, yes, Advantage Plus, yes, cold targeting, yes, warm, yes, lookalike, and split test creatives amongst all of those, which we teach how to do, but I don't want you to get caught up in like, how do I do that? I want you to just marinate for a second on the reality of if you've tested 1 or 2 ads to 1 or 2 audiences, you haven't actually advertised, you've taken a shot across the bow and hoped it landed. And that's okay. Most people do that, but just understand that this conversation is so important. And why I'm really harping on all these different targeting options is because it is important that you try them all because you don't know what's going to work in your ad account until you try them.
Yes. And okay, so I just want to clarify something from my understanding now that I'm all back into Facebook ads. So when you go, like when you're going to target like the special interest, like Amy Porterfield audience, you're actually switching back to the like legacy audiences, right? Like
Yes, I'm still using legacy audiences like Amy Porterfield, James Webb.
Okay. And
yes.
Now that setting that I found that seems to be working, getting my lead costs for our webinars down, was I'm running the Advantage Plus audience, but I'm telling it to find people like my warm audience.
There's a pure Advantage Plus, which is like you just give it age, gender, Advantage Plus. There's cold overlay Advantage Plus, which is like likes Amy, likes Brendan with Advantage Plus turned on. And then there's warm or focused Advantage Plus, which is like my email list with Advantage Plus turned on.
Okay. And the 4th option is technically turn off Advantage Plus completely and go the legacy route of.
Yes, there's technically a 4th option.
Yeah, I do use that 4th option.
And I'm using all those options.
All those options. Okay. Is this stuff that you talk about in the challenge?
Yeah, great question.
Okay. So I want to talk about the challenge, but selfishly, I have one more question that I want, which is because the next layer after you get your audiences, is then we have to talk about the ad copy and the creative that you're using. And my first question about that is, are you using AI to help you with this at all?
Yes, sort of. So I'm a little behind on AI stuff. Not that I'm even a purist, just like I'm super busy. And I do think that there's some dead giveaways when you tell ChatGPT or even Claude, like, I'm writing a Facebook ad. 3 things will happen. Just does. That's usually like, attention course creators. And they just don't work anymore. It's very much based on data from a year ago. And that's kind of how the AI works. So that's the first thing. Second thing is it will be littered with emojis. I can tell you used AI to write your ad when it's like, I'm not saying like 5 or 6 emojis. We're talking like 15, 20 emojis as soon as you use the words Facebook ad. And then I know I'm going to get flack for this, but the M dash, don't use the M dash in your ads. It doesn't look native. People are not using the M dash. I know that all the writers are coming out of the woodwork mean like an M dash doesn't mean it's AI. I'm like, no, but if you're a marketer who used the M dash and you've never used it for 10 years, I'm pretty confident that you used AI to write this copy. And just for context, the M dash is like, because I had no idea what it was until somebody told me. It's just the super long hyphen.
Yes.
Between it.
My ChatGPT loves it and it drives me nuts.
I will put stuff that has worked into ChatGPT or Claude. I really like Claude right now because it just gets my tone of voice really well. I know you can train ChatGPT. Claude, I'm just always putting like a full podcast transcript, 2 or 3, and then having it write Facebook ads. I think ChatGPT can do that now too. But anyway, I use both. I will put in some of my own content. Then I will say, here are 2 ads that have performed well. Please use the framework and concept for these to write an ad. Then I will take ChatGPT's ad and still rewrite it in my own tone of voice. So I'm not like, basically it shortcuts the time to do it, but I'm still putting 20, 30, 45 minutes into creative wise. I am not blindly using anything from ChatGPT, but there's this really cool hack that I learned by accident. I didn't learn it from anybody. I was like, this is crazy. So I was like looking at this ad somebody had made with a chart, and I was like, oh, it'd be so cool because we teach list building. So many people love the little ConvertKit chart. Like every email software has some version of, and what I'm referring to is like your growth chart, like how many emails you've added, but it's different in Flowdesk. It's different in ConvertKit. It's different in ActiveCampaign. And I was like, I wish there was a way to be more like agnostic, like platform agnostic with it. So I asked ChatGPT probably a week and a half ago, 2 weeks, where they're now doing like really good image generation. I was like, make me a chart that shows an email that's growing similar to this. I gave it a reference photo. The problem with ChatGPT's image generation, and again, this could be my limitation, is that it's just, there's always something slightly not right about it. Like still, I know it's better. Like we even just did one. And it's like, these words are like slightly too far apart. The L is a little too long. But what I will do is I will have it iterate images, and you can only do so many images in chat before it's like, you need to wait, even if you're on the paid plan. Hate it. So what I've done is I say, give me, based on this ad copy, I rewrite it, then I put it back in. I say, based on this copy, here's some things I'm thinking. Give me some image ideas. Don't generate the image. Give me ideas. It will type out what it's thinking. And by doing that, you don't have to sit and wait for 3 minutes for the image to generate, but you also get 4 options. I'll take 1 or 2 options, refine them. Then I will have ChatGPT make the image. I know this is really long, but I promise there's an end here. Once it generates the image, I then tell ChatGPT, how would you make this image in Canva? And it will literally tell you step by step how to create an editable version. So you can change brand color, size, placement, font, logo, colors. That is the little trick that I was like, this is so cool. So you can tell ChatGPT to give you step-by-step instructions, and it will literally be like, click the background, change it to this color, type this in, use this hex. It's so good. So that's what we're doing in terms of copy and image generation. And we're testing it. Some of our AI stuff beats out our static or our non-AI. Some of our non-AI stuff way beats out some of our AI stuff. I think it's always same as with audiences. Test, test, test. We have one AI image that's crushing.
So that's okay. That's very interesting. So because I have Haley and she's been with me for 5 years and she's my designer, I can just tell her, I don't need ChatGPT because I can just tell her what's in my brain and she can make it. But what I have found it helpful for is on the Redefining Mom side, we're really like, we're trying a lot of, she finally got me to start doing B-roll. So I'm like fanatically into cleaning my house lately. Like I like spring cleaning. And so I've been setting up the tripod. I clean out my pantry and it's working. So I'll go to ChatGPT and I'll be like, give me ideas for more B-roll essentially that I can easily record when I'm out. Like I went to Sam's Club and I actually recorded myself, but the ad 3 times ROAS cold traffic to my shop with these
Yep.
B-roll videos. So I'm like, well, I will film all the B-roll if I'm going to get 3
Like, I
times
will
ROAS.
dance in Costco if I have to.
If I'm getting 3 times my ad spend, I will do it. So, okay, last question about images, then we're going to talk about the challenge. Is there any like certain type of image you would say is working the best right now?
No, this is a great question. There's 4 core images we use. We say mock-up style, which is like a mock-up. That's what you traditionally see for like low ticket or PDFs where it like fans out. There is stock photos, work especially well for like the softer niches. Think artistry, spirituality, creativity, personal development. We literally go to Pexels, the Canva library, and we just drop in a stock photo. I have one I've been running for a client in the spirituality space for like a year and a half, and it's just a picture of a crystal and like 70-cent leads for a year and a half. The other one is lifestyle photos, but I always qualify by saying I'm personally in all of the accounts that I manage seeing a downturn in the performance of like highly stylized lifestyle photos. I jokingly say, like, if you have a wide hat and a long dress and it's blowing in the wind on the beach in Southern California, probably not going to convert. But like iPhone style shots, candid shots, shots of you at your desk, shots of you doing what your niche is, cooking, whatever. Those are doing really well. And then our secret weapon, partially because I'm lazy, partially because they convert, is text-based images. And so a text-based image is exactly what it sounds like. It's an image where it is literally just like a giant headline in a square image. Those are just crushing it for us. I think our one doing the best right now says like in my list growth era, obviously Taylor Swift reference, but it's doing really well. And it just says in my list growth era. And then it's like, come learn about our boot camp. And it's doing really well. Those are our go-to images. And then video can do well for some people. I don't do a lot of video, mostly because I always look like I've just rolled out of bed because 9 times out of 10 I have. But like B-roll does do pretty well. Pro tip, if you want to create really engaging videos, study trending reels and TikToks. Those do really well as like ads. We ran one that was working really well, which you've seen it a million times if you're on Facebook, Instagram Reels, or TikTok. Is the one where it's like a green screen of somebody pointing at like a notes, like the notes app.
Yep.
We mocked it up in Canva. We used the green screen app and I was like, I'm going to show you how to add 1,000 people to your list in the next 90 days. Let's get into it. Boom, boom. And it's just like, high cut rate. You've seen these before. If it's going viral on TikTok on multiple accounts, it's probably going to work as an ad.
Yeah. I feel like my B-roll is working for the redefining mom side because like I don't, no makeup, my hair's on a mom bun.
Yes.
My glasses are on, I'm wearing a hoodie. And I'm just walking around my house doing stuff. Then I go to ChatGPT and I say, help me with the voiceover script for it. And then Haley takes it and puts it into CapCut and makes really quick transitions with my voiceover. And that's been doing really well.
Oh, and if you do video, because you mentioned voiceover, always have captions.
Yes.
Always have
Yes.
captions.
Yes.
I don't know the exact stat because it's always changing, but it's somewhere like 30% of people will start and do part of their videos. Like 30% of people will do it without sound.
Yeah. And one thing, I'll leave it with this with images, and we've got to talk about your channel because I enjoyed this conversation so much. I talked to Jordan Gill from Systems That Saved Me recently, and she's crushing it with Facebook ads right now. One of her best performing ads is her literally laying in her bed. She snapped a picture of her laying in bed, like totally chill, and she put a testimonial on top of her head, and it's crushing it. And I'm like, anyone can do that,
Yep.
That's so simple. And that's what really got me on to trying getting the tripod out and doing the B-roll. Okay, so let's talk about the challenge that you're running at the end of this month.
Yes. So at the end of this month, we're running the Facebook and Instagram ads for List Building Bootcamp. And basically what it is it's a 5-day live training where we teach you how to write, create, set up, manage, optimize, and leverage the power of ads for list building. Now, I want to be really transparent. We don't talk about like direct to sale or even like launch ads, not because we don't want to, but because it's 5 days and your admittedly brain will do some work that week. So like we mentioned earlier, the foundation of what we do is list building ads. Like I always have a list building ad going or I'm launching. That's pretty much non-negotiable at this point in my business. Because if the list is growing and you have a tripwire and you have an email sequence, which we also talk about in the challenge, then every day you're getting new leads and every day they're being made an offer to buy from you. And if you scale up, every day you get sales. We basically don't have 0 sales days 95% of the time. So, there's always that one day where I'm like, we lost the streak. Should we send an email? And I was like, no, let the ads do their job. And then we didn't get a sale. I was really bummed. But Doesn't matter. All of that to say, it creates a lot of consistency in your business. So day one, we teach you how to write and create your imagery. Day two, we actually go into the ads manager, set it up, all recorded, walk you through it. Day three, we kind of give your brain a little bit of a rest. Day four is looking at your results. And then day five is like next step and some of those custom audiences, lookalikes, things that we talked about today. Here's what I will tell you. Results are typical if you show up and do the work, right? So like we typically see people get 50 to 100 plus leads in that 5 to 7 day window. By Monday, most people get 50 to 100 leads if you follow along. Budget wise, because I know that's the big question, plan to spend $150 to $200 over your first 2 weeks, and then $10 a day ongoing, which is that $300 a month we talked about, is a totally reasonable place to be. There is a front load cost for all of that testing. We'll teach you how to set all that up. And then the last thing I'll say, we keep it really fun because let's be honest, like I geek out, like we clearly geek out about Facebook ads. You might be listening. It's like, this is the driest conversation I've ever heard. I mean, hopefully not. We're super fun, but conceptually you might be like, this isn't the most exciting thing I've ever listened to. So we always have a theme. I'm kind of bummed because the Eras Tour ended, but I was doing a lot of Taylor Swift themes for our boot camp. So little teaser, there's like still some Taylor Easter eggs. We're doing When You Wish Upon a Lead. It's like a very princess fairy tale inspired week, which is going to be so fun. We have different themes for every day. And that is like giveaway themes, content themes, process themes. And so if you show up, not only can you generate leads, but you can also win prizes. And for those of you who are like, I'm not a princess girly, totally get that. We also opt that you can have the Amazon gift card of equivalent value every day. It just keeps it light. Some of the themes we've done were like, we did in our list building era was the last one. And I had a life-size Taylor Swift cardboard cutout. And I bought giant friendship bracelets for the background. We did cats one time, which my friend was like, cats, like the musical. And I was like, no, like the pet, like just cats. And she was like, this is so unhinged. People loved it. By the end, people were like dropping cat giffies and cat reference. Like it was so good. We did iconic things of 2023, which was like the Barbie movie year. Stanley Cups had like a big resurgence that year. So we gave away Stanley Cups, and the Eras Tour had just come out. We gave away like home viewing parties. So, we just like to keep it fun. And I tell you that not because it matters, but because we also incentivize you to take action. Because here is the thing, I mentioned this in passing. At the end, we invite you to our membership, but it is super important to me that you understand if you join the bootcamp, which is $25, you will, if you follow along, have ads up and running in your account, generating 50 to 100 leads in the course of 7 days. All of that is included fully. If you show up and you do the work, you're going to trust yourself. You're going to trust me. You're going to trust Facebook ads more. And then hopefully some of you will continue into our membership. And so the prize and the giveaway is to keep it light and fun, but it is to incentivize you to take action, because if you get results, you win. If you get results, I win. If we're both winning, who's not to say it's great? So that is a super long-winded spiel, but yeah, the Facebook and Instagram ads for List Building Bootcamp, that's what it is. And we would absolutely love to have you.
Yeah. And Zach's not kidding about people getting results in it. And this is one of the reasons I wanted you to be on the podcast to talk about ads, because obviously I love ads, but also we are very similar in how we teach. Like when I run a live challenge, it's results oriented. Then of course we're going to pitch you the next thing to work with us, but we get you results before we get there. And I love when people teach like that, because nobody just wants I'm not showing up for a big sales pitch for 5 days.
And you'll see on like the sales page, I know you've got a link for it. You can see we have dozens of testimonials. We have done it to around 3,000 people. We're really trying to get the review rate up, but we've had 157-ish, 157 or 175. I can't remember. Over 150 people have left a review for the bootcamp, and it averages, we asked them to rate it out of 10 and 9.7 from those 150 reviews that we've gotten. So like people do enjoy it. It is a really good time. And yeah, we're going to give you everything you need to be successful.
Yes. I already know when I'm going to make the pretty link. So I'm going to give it to everyone. It's going to be monicafrose.com/Zach, but it's ZACH.
The right link.
Okay. So I will put the link to this in the show notes so you can go sign up for it. And it kicks off what day?
April 28th through May 2nd. We send an email, 9 a.m. Eastern every morning. We're live at 12 p.m. noon Eastern time every day. And that recording goes up within 4 hours. You can watch it in real time, or you can join us for the replay. So even if you can't make every live call, totally worth it. I promise.
You seriously, it's like we're the same person. It's so funny. Okay, so I'm going to put the link in the show notes. How else can people connect with you? What's like,
Yeah, if you have questions, we do have a little chat box on the sales page. But if you're just like, this dude's cool, Instagram is the way to go, at Zach Spuckler, ZachSpuckler on Instagram. That's really where I'm active. I post a few times a month, and sometimes I do stories when I feel inspired, but I'm always posting when something's happening there. So Instagram is the best way to go. If you want more podcast content, not your average online marketing podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those good places you can listen, and we drop a show a couple times a month.
We'll make sure to link to all this in the show notes as well, so people can go and follow you. Listen, your podcast is fantastic. I have been listening to every episode you put out. When I get the email, I'm like, I can go on a walk today. I have something to listen to.
I love that.
Thank you so much for joining us and sharing all of your awesome Facebook knowledge with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
That's a wrap on today's episode, but your next step starts right now. If you're serious about selling digital products and want the AI-powered tools, expert strategy, and real human support to make it happen, then you need to check out the Empowered Business Society. Inside, you'll get AI-driven trainings to create and sell digital products faster, a private community for expert feedback and real-time support, exclusive access to the Monica Memo podcast, and if you go pro, you'll get monthly marketing shortcuts, live Q&As, and 20% off of the Empowered Shop perpetually. Because smart business owners sell smarter, they don't work harder. And the best part, you can get started for as little as $9. The best business growth happens when AI and real humans work together. Ready to make your next move? Join us inside of the Empowered Business Society. You can check us out at empoweredbusiness.co/society. See you in the next episode.